My mother abandoned me in a ship. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Please don't forget to share with your family and friends, and subscribe to this channel for your support. Means a lot to me. Back to my story. The cruise ship was alive that night, laughter echoing across the decks, music spilling from the ballroom, the smell of grilled seafood drifting in the air. Everyone seemed happy, everyone but me. I had followed my mother here with hope, clinging to the promise she made when she booked the tickets. This will be our time together. She said the trip would heal the distance that had grown between us. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But as I watched her that evening, something felt wrong. She wasn't laughing or dancing. She stood near the railings, her phone pressed to her ear, her words sharp and hurried, as if she didn't want me to hear. "Mom," I asked softly, approaching her, "who are you talking to?" She startled, then forced a tight smile. "No one you know, go enjoy the music, I'll be there soon." Her tone was too cold, her smile too stiff. I should have pressed her, but I didn't. I told myself she was tired, distracted, maybe even seasick. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. At midnight, the ship made a brief stop at an island port. Passengers with clearance were allowed to disembark for an hour. I followed her to the exit ramp, clutching the shawl around my shoulders. "Where are you going?" I asked. "They said only selected passengers can leave." She looked at me then, really looked. And her eyes were empty, not angry, not sad, just empty. She pressed a folded envelope into my palm. "You'll understand one day." Before I could reply, she turned, walked down the ramp, and disappeared into the crowd on the pier. The horn blared, crew members raised the ramp, the ship began to move. I screamed her name, shoving past the crowd, my voice tearing in the night. But she never turned back, not once. Breathless, I ripped open the envelope. A single line stared back at me, written in her neat handwriting. "Don't look for me." The paper slipped from my hands as the ship pulled farther into the dark sea, carrying me away from the only family I had. I ran back to our cabin, praying it was all a mistake. Maybe she'd slipped away for a moment and would be waiting inside. Annoyed at my panic, my hands shook as I shoved the keycard into the lock and flung the door open. The room was spotless, too spotless. Her suitcase was gone. The clothes she had carefully folded into the drawers that first day had vanished. Even her perfume bottle, the one she never traveled without, had disappeared from the vanity. She hadn't just stepped away, she had left. My knees buckled, and I gripped the edge of the bed to steady myself. The envelope crinkled in my fist. "Don't look for me." My mind spun in circles. Why would she abandon me? What had I done so wrong that she could erase me in a single night? A knock at the door jolted me. I opened it to find a man in his 50s, dressed casually, but with a seriousness in his eyes that unsettled me. He lowered his voice. "She's not coming back." I blinked. "What did you just say?" "I saw her leave," he said firmly. "And I overheard her earlier this evening. She was arranging it, talking to someone about starting over." I gripped the door frames, my heart hammering. "Who are you?" "Just another passenger," he said quickly, glancing down the hallway, as though afraid someone was listening. "But you need to know the truth. She didn't leave by accident. She planned it." The air seemed to collapse around me. My mother hadn't been stolen from me. She had chosen to go. I whispered, "Why are you telling me this?" He hesitated, then met my eyes. "Because she said something strange. She said you'd be safer if she left, and that you'd understand one day." My throat tightened. Safe from what? Before I could question him further, he handed me a folded napkin with a scribbled number on it. "If you need answers, call this when you dock." Then he walked away, disappearing into the crowd of passengers. I stared at the number, the paper trembling in my hands. My mother's betrayal had cracked my world open. But now, it seemed, there was something far darker behind it. The number on the napkin burned in my palm all night. I waited until the ship docked at its final port and hurried to the nearest payphone, my heart thundering in my chest. This was my chance, my only chance, to understand why my mother had abandoned me. I dialed. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. My pulse raced. Finally someone answered, a woman. Her voice was low, steady, and strangely cold. "Don't call here again." "Wait," I gasped. "Please, you know my mother. Why did she leave? Where is she? Why would she do this?" Silence. For a long moment, all I could hear was my own shaky breathing. Then the woman spoke again, her tone sharper. "You were never supposed to find this number. Forget it. Forget her." The line went dead. I tried again, my fingers trembling as I redialed. This time, a flat mechanical tone echoed back, disconnected. My last thread to her had been cut. I staggered back to the ship, tears blurring my vision. In my cabin, I tore through the drawers in desperation. searching for something, anything she might have left behind. Nothing, her clothes were gone. Her perfume, her suitcase, all of it. Only my own bag remained. I unzipped it with shaking hands. Nestled between my clothes was another envelope. My throat went dry. I pulled it out and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was rushed, uneven, almost frantic. The words made my stomach twist. Trust no one, they'll find you if you're not careful. The room seemed to close in around me. Who were they? Why was I in danger? My mother hadn't just abandoned me. She had left me with a curse. When the cruise ship finally reached its last port, I felt more alone than I had ever felt in my life. Passengers rushed down the ramp, reunited with loved ones, who embraced them with laughter and tears. Suitcases rolled across the docks. Taxi drivers shouted for fares. Children tugged their parents' sleeves, excited to go home. And me, I stood there with a single worn bag. The envelope still clutched in my hand, a hollow ache spreading through my chest. A crew member approached, clipboard in hand. Is someone coming to collect you, miss? My throat tightened. I could barely force the lie past my lips. Yes, later. He gave me a sympathetic nod and walked away. But his eyes lingered, as if he could see through me. I wandered into the city, surrounded by neon lights and noise that felt louder than it should have. Every shadow seemed to follow me. Every laugh cut too sharp. I found a cheap hostel on the edge of town, its walls peeling and its bed stiff. But at least it gave me a place to collapse. That night, I stared at the cracked ceiling, my mother's words replaying in my mind. Don't look for me. And the second note, trust no one. They'll find you if you're not careful. What did it mean? Who was they? My mother had chosen to vanish, but she had left me in the middle of a storm I didn't understand. The next morning, I followed a faint address scribbled on the back of the note. My stomach twisted as I knocked on the peeling door of a weathered old house. It opened slowly, revealing a woman in her 60s. Her sharp eyes scanned me from head to toe before she whispered words that froze me in place. You look just like her. The woman's words struck me like lightning. You look just like her. I stepped inside, my heart pounding. The house smelled of dust and old secrets, curtains drawn tight, as if she didn't want the world peering in. She poured me a glass of water, her hands trembling slightly. You knew my mother? I asked, my voice cracked. Her eyes flickered with something fear. Maybe guilt. Years ago, she was running then. Too, always looking over her shoulder. Running from what? I pressed. She shook her head. The less you know, the safer you are. Her refusal only deepened the ache in my chest. If my mother had been running from something all along, why bring me into it? Why abandon me now? The woman slid a worn photograph across the table. My mother stood in the center, younger, smiling stiffly beside strangers I had never seen before. There was something chilling in their eyes, something that made my stomach turn. They aren't friends, the woman whispered. They're the people she was afraid of. Before I could ask more, she stood abruptly. You need to leave. It isn't safe for you here. Confused and shaken, I returned to my hostel. But when I went back the next day, desperate for answers, the house was empty. The curtains ripped down, furniture gone, as if she had vanished into thin air. Packed in the middle of the night. A neighbor told me, didn't say where she was going. I staggered away, clutching the photo like it might shatter in my hands. Within days, my money ran out. I ate whatever scraps I could find, slept on benches, and wrapped myself in my bag for warmth. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes on me. Once I caught a man following me for 3 blocks. When I turned, he melted into the crowd. I wasn't just abandoned anymore. I was being watched. Weeks blurred together in hunger and exhaustion. I scrubbed dishes in a cafe by day and swept streets at night, just enough to afford a bunk in a shelter. Each night, I clutched the photo of my mother with those strangers, asking myself the same question over and over. Why wasn't I enough for her to stay? Then one afternoon, while clearing tables at the cafe, the manager handed me an envelope. Came for you, he said, eyeing me curiously. My heart nearly stopped. No one knew me here. Who would send me mail? The envelope had no return address. My hands shook as I ripped it open. Inside were 2 things, a photograph and a note. The photo was of my mother, older, sharper, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. They looked comfortable together, almost like family. My throat tightened. The note was short, her handwriting messy and rushed. I had to choose. I read the words again and again, until they blurred with my tears. Choose what? Choose who? I flipped the photo over. In the corner of the background was a sign written in a foreign language. My chest tightened. It was proof she had left the country, proof she had truly started a new life. Anger boiled inside me, hotter than any pain I had felt before. She hadn't been forced to leave me. She had chosen to. She had chosen herself. Maybe even another family, over me. I folded the note carefully and tucked it into my bag. My tears dried into resolve. If she thought she could vanish and I would crumble, she was wrong. I would find her, not because I needed her love, but because I needed the truth. The anger inside me became my fire. For months, I worked any job I could find, scrubbing floors, cleaning toilets, washing dishes until my hands cracked. I slept in cramped rooms with strangers, skipped meals to save money, and studied whenever I could. At night, by the dim light of library lamps, I devoured books on business, computers, and survival skills. It wasn't glamorous. I cried into thin pillows, stared at ceilings that leaked, and fought the gnawing voice that whispered, "You'll never escape this." But each morning I rose again. Slowly, my savings grew. I took a chance and enrolled in night classes. It was terrifying, sitting in a room with people who belonged more than I did. But I forced myself to keep showing up. Knowledge became my weapon. One evening, a wealthy businessman visited the cafe where I worked. He watched me balance trays, handle rude customers with a smile, and stay long after closing to clean. The next day he returned, not for coffee, but to offer me a job as his assistant. I nearly collapsed from shock. The pay was more than I had ever seen. The hours were long, but I didn't care. I threw myself into the work, learning from him, studying how he managed money, clients, and opportunities. Years passed, my skills sharpened, my confidence grew. Eventually, I left to start my own company. The girl abandoned on a cruise ship was gone. In her place stood a woman who had built herself from nothing. And then, at my company's very first gala, as champagne glasses clinked and cameras flashed, I froze. Across the glittering hall, watching me from the shadows, was my mother. For a moment, I thought I was seeing a ghost. My glass nearly slipped from my hand as our eyes locked across the room. She looked older, thinner, but still unmistakably her, my mother. The woman who had walked off that cruise ship and never turned back. I set my glass down and crossed the floor, each step heavier than the last. The chatter of the gala faded until the only sound I could hear was my own heartbeat. She didn't move, she just stood there, eyes wide as though she wasn't sure if I'd scream, strike her, or embrace her. When I finally reached her, my voice was sharp, trembling with years of hurt. "Why?" Her lips parted, and for a moment I saw the flicker of shame. "I had no choice," she whispered. "They were after me, I had to disappear." My laugh was bitter, loud enough to draw curious glances from the guests nearby. "Disappear? You didn't just disappear, Mom, you abandoned me." Her eyes shone with tears, and she reached for my hand. But I pulled it back. My skin burned where her fingers almost touched. "I thought you'd understand one day," she said, her voice cracking. "I thought you'd be safer if I left." The words twisted like a knife. Safe? Did she think hunger was safe? Did she think loneliness was protection? Before I could answer, a tall man approached, resting his hand gently on her back. Two teenagers followed, one boy, one girl, both with her eyes. My breath caught in my throat. Her new family. The air around me thickened as the man slid his arm protectively around her shoulders. The teenagers, both carrying her unmistakable features, looked at me with wide eyes, curiosity mixed with unease. "Who is this?" the man asked, his tone firm but wary. My mother's lips trembled. She hesitated, as though searching for a lie that could erase me. That hesitation was the final betrayal. I stepped forward, my voice steady though my insides quaked. "I'm her daughter, the one she left behind on a cruise ship years ago. The child she abandoned, without looking back." Gasps rippled through the nearby guests, who had stopped to listen. Phones were already raised, recording. My mother's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a trapped fish. Her husband frowned. "Is this true?" Tears welled in her eyes. It's complicated." I was scared. I had no choice. "No choice," my laugh was sharp, cutting through the murmurs. "You had a choice. And you chose them." I gestured toward the teenagers. "You built a new life while I starved. While I scraped floors and begged strangers for shelter. You left me with nothing." Her voice cracked. "I thought you'd understand one day. I thought you'd survive." "I did survive," I snapped, tears stinging my eyes. "But not because of you, in spite of you." The teenagers shifted uncomfortably, their innocence caught in the crossfire. Her husband's face hardened. "You lied to us," he whispered, stepping back. The weight of truth collapsed around her. She reached for me, her voice breaking. "Please forgive me, you're still my daughter." But as her hand hovered in the air, I felt nothing but steel in my veins. Her hand hovered in the space between us, trembling, desperate, but I didn't move to take it. Once, years ago, I would have begged for that touch. I would have given anything for her love. But now, standing in the glittering hall I had built with my own blood and sweat, I finally saw her clearly, not as a mother, but as the woman who chose to leave me behind. I don't hate you, I said softly, my voice steady despite the storm inside. But I'll never need you again. Her tears spilled freely. Please don't leave me again. I shook my head. You left me first. You walked away, and I learned how to live without you. I don't owe you forgiveness. Gasps rippled through the guests still watching, their phones capturing every second. Her husband stood in stunned silence, the teenagers clinging to him with wide, fearful eyes. My mother sank into a chair, her face buried in her hands. I turned toward the exit, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Every step felt lighter, freer, as if chains were falling away with each movement. For the first time in years, I wasn't running from her memory. I was walking into my own future. Outside, the night air was crisp, the city lights stretching like a promise across the horizon. I breathed deeply, lifting my chin. She may have abandoned me, she may have chosen another life, but she hadn't destroyed me. I had built myself from ashes. And as the doors of the hall closed behind me, I whispered the words that sealed my freedom. You may have left me, but I became everything you thought I couldn't be. Thank you for watching. Till the end, please don't forget to like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to this channel for more stories.